questions to ask. So we've chatted with Sunaina, but I'd like to introduce her again. So she's Sunaina Basu, also part of LWL member. She's a co-founder of Rafiki Marketing, and she's an accomplished performance marketer and agency leader, renowned for her expertise in driving business growth through innovative digital strategies. So, with a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and Economics from Tufts University, Sunaina brings a unique blend of analytical rigor and psychological insight to her marketing endeavors. So, over past 6 years, Rafiki Marketing, under her guidance, has collaborated with esteemed clients including Baskin Robbins, Belgian Waffles, and JW Marriott, delivering unparalleled results and fostering lasting relationships. And Sunaina has also conducted workshops for over 300 plus participants and was a teacher at IIT. So this is a little gist about Sunaina. Thank you. And over to you. And before we start, I'd like everyone to introduce themselves, like just the name and like what you do, so that we could start with the session. So yeah, who would like to start? Let's start from your end. Let's start? Yeah. Hi, my name is Naya and I'm a hula hoop artist. I think I'll take part in one of the sessions with NWL.
Okay. Hi, I'm Vaishali. I'm into fine jewelry since 26 years, and I also have another B2C brand where I'm a founder and a promoter called Slick Fix, which is a fashion dressing solutions that we provide.
Hi, I'm Anisha. I'm a co-founder at a startup called Collector. We're building digital tools for fashion designers.
Hi, I'm Komal Ramani Matija. I'm a brand strategist. I work with business and personal brands. For business brands, we do everything from naming of your startup to logo design to collections. For personal brands, we help you build credibility on platforms like LinkedIn and Instagram.
Hi everyone, I'm Deepshika. I run a business in beauty-based distribution of hair to essentials.
Hi, this is Swati Jalan. I am a product stylist and I'm also getting into wellness. So yes, I'm coming up with my own wellness brand and my own wellness playbook.
Hi, I'm Anupama Jain. I have my own travel destination jewelry, which is silver based in Hamune Purki. I am also helping my son for his startup, which is a food startup. So I keep running two businesses, food and jewelry.
Hi, I'm Shreya Lal. I run a creative consultancy called Crystal Brand Solutions. We do branding, we do social media, and we do a lot of video production also.
Hi, I'm Ritika. I'm not a member yet. This is my first event. So thank you for having me. But I run a creative consultancy called The Significant Order, and we are more a design-led creative consultancy. We do branding, websites, stuff like that. We also do a lot of digital marketing. Our forte is food, F&B mostly, and wellness.
Hi, I'm Saloni Sangvi. I simplify money so people can focus on their profession and business. I help people with their investments and achieving their dreams essentially.
I am Pooja Doshi. I'm a wedding designer and decorator, and I specialize in destination weddings.
Thank you so much.
That's very clean. There's no thesis where you have an 11-year experience. It's clear. That's what I do.
Just one request before we start, if you could put your phones on silent, please. And over to you, Sunaina.
So today we're just going to go through like an introduction, but an in-depth introduction to performance marketing with a focus on B2C brands. I did see some questions come through about B2B and say BFSI and all. We have worked with clients like that, so if you all have any specific questions, I can take them at the end. And I've basically divided it into 3 sections as planning, implementation and monitoring. So we can maybe take questions after each section, like related to any of the questions you all have at that point. So just to start off, we all know it's a mad ad world and we're all just living in it. Just putting out a question, how many ads do you think you see in any given day? 100. Yeah, 100. 100? 5. 5? I don't know. Oh wow. Wow. 20. Okay, fine. Cool. So we did a little bit of an experiment.
So how many ads do you think
This is my
you see in
co-founder
one
Arjun.
day?
Way too many, but if I had to take a guess, I would say like 50.
50 ads, okay, okay. Do you have your phone with you?
I would
Okay, let's do a small experiment. Let's
say.
open Instagram and let's scroll Instagram just as you normally would for 1 minute, and now just observe how many ads you're actually getting. Okay, so
Interesting.
let's start. Okay.
Okay.
You said you saw 14 ads
Yeah.
in 1 minute of scrolling,
Yeah.
and how much time do you think on average you spend on Instagram in a day?
I'm guessing on the better side, like 3 hours.
Okay, so let's say that's 180 minutes into 14 ads per minute. So you're seeing 2,520 ads. Not only have you become numb, but it also tells you as an advertiser, as a brand, you really need to stand out.
Yeah.
So that's just on Instagram, so you can only imagine how many ads you're seeing if you're consuming content on YouTube, LinkedIn. A lot of it has become native as well, so you may not even be able to tell, but as brand, it's even more important to sort of stand out from the clutter. And
So how many ads
sorry.
do you think?
Basically stand out from the clutter and actually get someone to click on your ad or try and actually do a conversion with you. So through the course of this presentation, I will take you through some of those ideas of how you can sort of structure your marketing campaigns better and stand out and get, like you guys are saying, get good results from it finally. So just a little bit about Rafiki, very quick. We've worked with over 100 plus clients, handle a big amount of media spend, and we work with clients across 6 different countries. Our core and what we like to call ourselves is customer-centric marketing for growth-oriented brands. Because of my background in psychology, we really believe that focusing on your customer is very, very important, and you can't leave that out of the entire mix. Just some clients that we've worked with in the past. So this is just to show you that this presentation is a combination of learnings from different industries. But if you have any industry-specific questions, I can try and get to those later. So this is what we'll be going through, a quick introduction to performance marketing, why you should leverage performance marketing, how you can set yourself up for success, and like I said, I've divided that up. And at the end, we have a small interactive session where I will ask you guys to just work on these notepads on a few questions that I've put up for your own brand, or for a brand maybe you want to work on it for. So just to get started, pretty simply, what is performance marketing? It's a marketing strategy that's driven entirely by the measurable aspects of a campaign, like clicks or conversions, depending on what are the key benefits. So number one is that it's very cost effective. So you only pay, so say on Google, you only pay when someone actually clicks on your ad. So anything else that you're getting out of that is just free in that sense. If someone even sees your ad, it's great. So a study by Nielsen recently found that digital advertising costs are almost 40 to 50% less than traditional TV advertising on average. We do think that's going to go up in the future as more and more people gravitate towards digital, but right now it's still in a good space. Measurability. So like we were discussing at the start, metrics like conversion rates, click-through rates, you have so much transparency into that information. So and all of it gets tracked in real time as long as your technology is set up correctly, so you can evaluate your campaigns quickly. So 2 weeks in, if you think it's not working, you can be very agile and change it. And again, according to a study by Google, businesses who use digital marketing tend to have a 2.8. Again, the measurability, targeted reach. So again, you can fine tune your campaigns to, dropping it down. If you want to target someone in this building, just in the building, you can drop a pin over there. If you want to target based off of what they're searching, you have a lot of control over who sees your ad, unlike the traditional ad platforms. Flexibility, again, this is I think a very big part that gets sort of lost, is that with performance marketing, it can't just be left on how it is. You need to keep sort of looking at it. We like to compare it to a plant. You need to just keep checking in, seeing does it need more sunlight, more water, what does it need more of, to make sure that you're actually getting the best out of it. So how does performance marketing actually work? So just imagine it like an auction. Any brand is sort of telling the advertiser, which is either Meta or Google, that hey, I'm willing to pay X amount for this creative and this targeting, and then Meta and Google figure out, they take into account like, okay, how much is say Sunena willing to pay for her ad, and is her ad quality and is her website good enough for me to actually show the ad. So it actually behind the scene works like an auction.
and then they figure out based on how much you're willing to pay and your actual ad quality, they'll see whether your ad is good enough to actually display. So Google as a platform is very, very particular about ad quality. So if your ad doesn't map to the landing page and your keyword doesn't make sense at all, if they're all just disjointed, they won't, even if you're willing to pay 100 rupees per click, they won't show your ad. So the main point we're trying to make here is you can't just pay your way through performance marketing. It has to be quality content that's going out there and quality targeting.
So, but when you're buying the ad, they first, when it goes in preview, this is what you need to say that they check the quality of your.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They may not even reject it. So sometimes you'll see on Google, especially if, let me think of an example. If you're selling, say, organic fruits, and someone is searching for even regular fruits in that case, they'll see that there's, okay, this person is selling organic fruits, but someone is searching for just a regular fruit, it doesn't make more sense, so I'll show a regular fruit seller over the organic fruit seller. So from even that perspective, you have to keep that in mind. That's what I was saying about the website, right? If your website is clunky and everything, Google will just be like, I don't want to wreck my user's experience, so I won't show the ad, even if they're willing to pay up to 100 rupees per click. This is just a little bit of insight into the different models that you have. So first is cost per click, which is like Google Ads has this, it's mainly cost per click where you only pay per click. So you're only getting charged per click. So your cost per click that you bid, you only get charged that. Then cost per 1,000 impressions, that's used more when you're doing, say, an awareness campaign. So say you're a new brand and you want to invest to make a lot of people aware, or if you're having a certain event. Like if you see when Little Flea and everything happens, you're constantly seeing all those ads. Those will be awareness, because there's no real call to action apart from, okay, I want you to buy the ticket, but first I want to make everyone aware. So that the buy-in is, okay, how much am I willing to pay for 1,000 people to see my ad? Cost per lead happens a lot more in B2B and BFSI type of clients. That's more, you're telling the platform, okay, this is what my ideal cost per lead should be, and that's how much I want to pay per lead. So they charge you based off of that. Cost per acquisition is more relevant for e-commerce. So when it comes to like, how much are you willing to pay for each new customer that's been acquired, or cost per sale in that case as well.
So what is difference between cost per click and reach? Like I understand when they click on your content, is that not also included?
No, because if say I'm running an ad, we run ads for this finance company. If they're running an ad but someone clicks on it but doesn't actually within there, it's not like, that doesn't make sense for me, because I want that lead information to come up. So I may be in a cost per lead campaign, I may be paying more per click, but that's okay with me because ultimately I want the lead to come to me.
So here you would only pay one if they fill out whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they
fills out the details.
If they fill out the details, so if you don't actually end up filling out that lead form, I won't get charged for it. Because my model that I've picked on the platforms is a cost per lead model.
And cost per acquisition is when somebody buys actually
Yeah.
for the food product.
Yeah, for the food
The
product.
conversion happens, they charge only then. Then this must be more expensive than CPC.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. That
Ah.
these two are the most expensive at the outset, so you end up paying a lot more per click and per 1,000 impressions. But the only guarantee you have at that point is that, okay, I'm getting the lead, I'm getting the sale. But if you're just starting out, I don't recommend these.
Yeah.
Because there's no data for them to, so there's no machine learning or optimization happening.
And what is the like for this? Like sometimes you just get likes on pictures. So what is that?
That'll be an engagement.
But isn't it AI driven, because when you suppose boost your post and you pay the minimum ad spend and all of that, it's most AI generated, they are not the real people.
Oh, you're seeing like bots. But that's why boosting from Instagram versus like going on ads library, ads manager is like, boosting is very like top level. You don't know who's seeing your ad, some random person will see it.
Because if I want 2,000 people to like my page, they will like, but it's useless.
Yeah, so that's why our recommendation is for balance boosting and doing it from ads manager, because ads manager you have a lot more control. And sorry to your question, if you're just starting out, it's better to start with these two models. You can still optimize for conversions and leads, but you don't have to pay for cost per lead. So then at least, because what you need to do is ensure that you have a good amount of data that the platforms can learn and base their campaigns and stuff off of.
And when your product pricing is say less than 500, then also you should start with this or this. And when your product pricing is say more than 10,000, 15,000, then is this CPA and CPL is a better model? Is there also difference in your product pricing, like that you should choose out of these 4 things?
Yeah, but I still think it's more dependent on the amount of data you sort of picked up over time than that. Because your higher priced product, I would ideally say it's better to do these two.
Okay.
Because then your cost per acquisition will become too high. If your product is for 10,000, your cost per acquisition, say you may want is going to be like, if you want a 3x return on ad spend, which is still smaller, it will be 3,000 per order, right? That's what you'll be willing to pay to them. That's too high.
Too high, yeah.
So it's better to start with that. If you've then got say 100 purchases also from these other campaigns, then you can start and use that and see, okay, I have like one bunch of customers was giving it to me at 1,000 rupees per order, so then that can be my target cost per acquisition.
And after how much time should, like, if a new brand is trying this out, so 6 months, 8 months, they should do the first 2, and then they should move on to the
You
next
can,
two?
I would say even 3 to 4 months
3
is
to 4
good.
months is good
Yeah,
to get the data.
yeah. As long as you're looking at the data, then 3 to 4 months is good.
So when you say
But
get
can be a good
data-
time, like what's a good time, like you're launching a brand? What is a good time to actually
Start
with that these days?
I would say once you have your brand, like we were again discussing this earlier, your brand needs to be set in stone before you go and invest. So your brand voice, your brand look, your brand feel, your website should be properly functioning. All the tracking and stuff should be set up correctly on your website. Your Instagram, if you're running meta ads, your Instagram should have at least say 9 to 12 posts so that when someone comes, because now what happens in the e-commerce journey especially, someone will check your Instagram page, see is this like a legitimate brand? They want to see some amount of engagement and stuff on it, and then you can sort of invest in that. So if you're a new brand, I would say give yourself 1 to 2 months of like figuring out your social strategy, your website strategy, and then invest. Sorry, what was your question?
You said that you should do this for 3-4 months till you get. You
Hmm.
mean the data on how your ads ran, what worked.
Yeah,
that's
what did
you
work?
mean.
Yeah.
And then move to the next.
Yeah, then move to the next. Because you should, if you start off like this, you may not even get results in the beginning.
Sorry, just one more. And this is relevant to service industries also. Like if I don't have a product to sell and I'm a service provider, or this is still
Yeah.
relevant to me, it can
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, it can work. But that with the service provider, I would say you shouldn't do this. You should just do like, you can start with these two and then go to possible.
So when I'm starting a campaign and I want to do some budgeting, my preferred model would be CPM. But how do I identify what kind of budgets I need to allocate?
I have a slide on that later. We go over, that's in the next like
The budget
planning section.
allocation.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll go over that. I just have 2 case studies to show about like the work that we've done. So Belgian Waffle had National Waffle Day, and we had to figure out how to just get more people. They were offering waffles for like $100, and we had to get more people into the store. So someone actually had a question about it's tough to track with restaurants, like how performance marketing works. So this was something where we had to drive in-store traffic. So we had to create as much of buzz as possible with their 300 plus outlets. So what worked for us over here was we did a very localized approach. So rather than targeting broadly just where they have stores, we dropped pins at every single of their store locations. We activated relevant channels. So obviously for Belgian Waffle, college going students is very important. So we included Snapchat in the mix. It was something different that we added in, and it actually ended up having the highest engagement rate. So that's what I was saying, you have to think about where your audience is. Consumer psychology. So this is again, we created a bunch of different buyer personas and tried to map our targeting to that. So we use things like Netflix, Marvel, Spotify. Like what are these people doing outside of their food interests? Because then you're not competing with other waffle or food brands. You're reaching a new audience. Capitalizing on video content. I think all of us know that's so important. But we use a lot of UGC and video content to sort of ensure that people actually like properly primed about this waffle day. And strategic budget management, so that's what I was talking about earlier. You need to ensure that even pre-launch and during launch, so say you have a new product coming out, you should invest some amount of budget for pre-launch so there's some amount of buzz around it, and then in the launch you can sort of go into more aggressive marketing, but always keep aside some budget for pre-launch of your brand or of a new product.
And how much percentage of your actual budget should go to pre-launch?
20 to 30% is good. Yeah.
So this is just in terms of the results that we saw. We saw the highest single-day sales spike that Belgian Waffle ever saw. These were got a bunch of impressions, almost 30,000 ad shares, a 6.5% click-through rate, and just a 50 paisa cost per click. So again, this is very efficient from that sense.
And how much did you earn out of this?
So they didn't give us that entire information, but they said it was the highest single day sales spike, and now I have not heard of the day with them, so I'm assuming it worked from that end. So this is that was very awareness driven. This is more apt for something e-commerce related. So this client sells these pocket fans, and with a bunch of changes that we did, we saw this is where we could actually see the 73% increase in return on ad spend, so how much we spent versus how much they got, a close to 600% increase in sales, and a 50% reduction in their cost per acquisition. So this is the type of information that if you have your tracking and everything set up correctly, you can sort of get that.
So, 70% increase in ROAS.
Sorry, ROAS is return on ad spend. So that's basically
So
calculated
suppose I
by,
spent 1 bar,
yeah.
73 rupees is what they earn.
This is a function of time. So our ROAS was around, it ended up being at 12. So it was like previously it was 12 means that for every 1 rupee I spent, I got 12 rupees back.
Yeah, exactly.
But we've done this as a function of time compared to what their return on ad spend was before we took over the account. So
You compare-
yeah, it's
You
just an
compared from
increase.
what you did
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
So you got almost 12,
Yeah.
12x.
Yeah, 12. So for every 1 rupee you spend, you get 12.
I have a question. What is the best way to increase your ROAS? Have you substantially have to increase your AD spends to increase your ROAS, or do you just like get from the same
It's
amount?
the best campaigns will run if you like try and fix what you already have, because just increasing budget won't, if your ads are not working, increasing budget is just going to make you lose money.
No, say they're working. Like, would you recommend that?
Yeah, but you should do
have
it.
more money?
Yeah, but you should do it like gradually, like 10-15% day on day, because if you do it from, if it's 500 now, you make it 2,500 today, even Meta and Google get confused. They're like, that's too much money for me to figure out. Then you end up like wasting your money. So if you do it gradually, that makes a lot of sense. So that what we do is, like, say in the start of June, a campaign was working, we kept infusing more and more money. So now in July, it's got a lot more budget now when we started, and it's still working. So that works out. But there are also other ways, within your like budget, if you need to increase your ROAS, introduce new audiences, introduce new creatives. That always, like a new creative, at least in the first 7 days on Meta, will definitely help you give you like a return on ad spend if it's a good thing.
So basically content is very important.
Yeah, and it's become even more important year on year now.
Content means what?
Exactly, even I was.
Like the actual creative that you're putting out there into the market. So like
These
You
are
need to
also
take
your
pictures
content,
or
your
videos.
Video.
your reels, everything is
That's the
content.
content.
Your post, your reels, your
Whole
videos,
feed.
your everything is
Yeah,
content.
yeah.
Everything, your feed, everything is content.
Yeah, but for performance marketing, your content has to have a different approach than social and anything else, because you need to ensure that, say, someone has a call to action. Say, for example, with your jewelry brand. What we've done when we work with jewelry brands, it's like book an appointment, explore more. Because I'm not expecting that someone's going to convert on jewelry in that moment, right? So you need to figure out, okay, what are the correct call to actions I can take for that specific person or their journey. But what we do is we take your best performing social content and then repurpose it to use for performance, because you need to have a call to action. They may need to be like like say between 6 to 15 seconds at most, because that's the amount of attention someone has. So that like your creative strategy for ads is very, very important. I have a slide on that also. Cool. So setting yourself up for success, you have to plan and strategize. What we see a lot of the time when brands come to us is someone has just spent, say, 50,000. No one has thought through where the money was going, just saying, okay, I'll work on it. So planning and strategizing is very important. Then of course we get into implementation and execution. But even this third part, very, very important, monitoring and optimization. If you just keep it on and just let it run, that's going to harm you for sure. You need to be looking at it daily and at least making changes once every 2 weeks. Because you need to check into how something's doing. So just a cartoon which says like 10 minutes left, let's do the strategy. We see this very often where people are like, okay, let's just figure out the strategy in 10 minutes. That's not how it works. It's better to think through like, how you're going to go about it. Than just rush into like, okay, in the thrill of like getting more clicks or getting more orders, just spending money. So this is just the different steps that you have to take. So within planning and strategy, we have choosing the correct channels, choosing your budget, goal setting, profiling your audiences and creative planning, all these things that we just discussed. Then you go into implementation and finally monitoring and optimization. So throughout the presentation, we'll be going through each of these steps. So we'll start with planning. So it's sort of a culmination of these four things, which is goals, budgets, personas, and channels, because they all sort of link to each other. So what is your goal? Depending on your goal, you set your budget. Once you know your budget, you need to figure out, okay, who are my target customers? And then depending on your budget and that target audience, you can figure out what channels you want to sort of advertise on. So with goal setting, there's this thing that we sort of apply called SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And the reason we mention all these things is that realistic and timely are also very important goals. Like if you're just starting out, be realistic about what you're trying to expect. Like if you're an e-commerce brand who's just starting out, you can't expect to have 100 orders in the first month. You can maybe expect to have, say, 5,000 visitors to the webpage in your month one, and you want to reach 1 lakh new prospects. In month 2, once you've got all that data, you can move to, okay, I want 100 orders, maybe 200 add to carts, and improved CTR basically means click-through rate. So, okay, maybe my click-through rate was 1% in month 1. What can I do to make it 3%? Because then you know that even that audience that you've been reaching out to is a little bit more engaged. 200 new followers. Then once you sort of got a lot more data, then in month 3 you can say, okay, I want 30% growth month on month, and my target return on ad spend is now 5. But you need to have amassed enough data to actually have those goals. So the main point here is just sit down with whoever you're working with or yourself and reflect upon what your goals would be, and make sure that you're very specific about them, like how we've done it over here as an example. So with budgeting, I am of the belief that even if you start small, once you gain more trust in platforms and say people that you're working with, then is the right time to ask you to sort of increase your budget. There's no minimum spend for most channels, apart from LinkedIn, which has a 500 rupee minimum daily spend. But you can even start with at like 10,000 rupees a month, experiment a little by yourself, and just see what's sort of working out for you.
So this 10,000 is on your Google Ads, not on the Meta.
No, I'm saying in general, Google or Meta.
It can be a mix of both. Suppose you have a budget of let's say 10,000, 50,000. Can be a combination of
yeah,
Google
you can do both
Meta.
and just figure out what's working for you, because I feel like until you do it, you may not really know what I can get from it. So typically, your monthly budgets in phase 1 should be 3 to 5% of your revenue, and in phase 2, 5 to 10% of your revenue. Now, per industry, this also differs. With food and beverages, it tends to be more in the 2 to 7% range at the max. E-commerce, it can go up to 15%. So these are just generalized numbers. Again, if you have specific questions about some industries, we can share that with you. In the B2B space, they end up spending a lesser percentage of their revenue than direct to consumer. And over here, then it's just, I have a media plan template also that I'll show you towards the end. Just utilize a proper, like how you do your accounting, budgeting for yourself or for your home or any of that. Use that type of like mindset when you're budgeting for your campaigns as well. And any existing data. So, Deepshika, I know you mentioned that you've already run ads, right? So if you were to reattempt running ads, I would say take any of that data that you have from the past and try to use that to forecast and try and understand what you can expect from your ad activation. When it comes to your cost planning, I think this is really important because a lot of brands come to us and they're like, oh, I have to pay for photography, videography, agency fees. When you're doing all this planning, keep in mind that while ad spend may be your biggest expenditure, you may also have to incur photography and videography costs. And this I think is very important, especially with food brands where they expect that some like random short content is just going to perform. No, then it's better you just wait 2 months, invest in a good like photo, video shoot, and then go ahead and do it. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but it'll last you through a month. It won't keep you going forever. And if you are working with an agency, bear in mind that they will also charge an agency fee.
So what are those spends like? Sorry, the photography agencies. Just if you had to get like a broad, how much you'll be spending?
It depends on the person, like who's actually sort of executing it. We've seen photographers who can do it at 50,000, but then a photographer will charge like 2 lakh. I think one of you said you're working video and photography, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you can answer that. Yeah, but it depends on like who you're working with. Now we've seen the minimum if you want to even get decent content is 50,000, but again it depends. Videos and everything will always add up on that. And agency fee just depends completely on the agency. Some people, if your spends are big, will take a percentage of your fee, percentage of your spend, sorry, or if you're at a smaller thing, they charge a retainer fee.
But broadly, I mean, just to understand if
Yeah.
one had to start,
So
what
if-
is the kind of budget one would look at?
I would say like if you were to do the most basic version of this, it would still be around like say around 2-ish lakhs a month.
Are you serious?
I'm saying that like,
That's
if
a
you
lot.
already
That's a month.
no, but if you already have photo and video, then it'll be less.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just giving you like if you have none of this, then this is how much.
So, see, she has a valid point because see, I do wedding decor, right? I take my photographers from Bombay to do the photo and the video. They charge me 1 lakh.
Yeah. So if
Just for coming for a 2-day wedding to shoot decor,
Yeah.
which are 4 events. But it's only decor, it's not client. Client is not paying for it.
Yeah.
I am paying for it for my Instagram.
Yeah.
Because if I don't put that good content, you will not look at me.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I put ऐसे one internal come 5,000 रुपए वाली will do this, you will only be like I'm not paying her.
Yeah.
Forget her. You yourself will want that 1 lakh rupee ka काम on my pay.
and even if you're
That
spending
is what
say,
happens.
if you're spending say 40 to 50,000 on ads, most agency will at minimum charge you 20,000 for something like that. So then it'll be like just around say 60 to 1 lakh. And the reason I'm giving you these higher numbers because then you can actually see results.
Yeah, there's no point
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
proper work if
If you're doing it on your own,
Yeah.
then sure spend 10,000.
Also,
spend
can we do
15,000.
only performance marketing spend and not do like those posts and all of that? Can we do that in phases? Like, see, we've done post and all on Insta, so there is a ready folder of few videos and this thing which we can reuse. So now can we only spend on performance marketing
Yeah, that's
and
what
not
I'm
do
saying.
social media posts because that's
No, but that I will say you need all of these work together. They're not like
independent of
if you have content that's being posted on your social, great. But if you have content on your social that has never been used for ads and it's all just sitting in one drive,
yeah.
that you can repurpose. But continue posting on social. But we can most agencies will repurpose any content you already have for ads.
So,
most-
at least for 2 months, you know, you can be a little
Yeah.
listing and not spend there and put your spending on the performance marketing
Yeah.
instead of creating posts.
Yeah. So with this, we worked with a rug brand. They had amazing content already. So what they had to do was just spend on ads, pay us our agency fees, and now maybe in 4 months they have to do another video shoot. Because like you said, for them they need to do the shoot. So they had content, but no one had used it correctly.
Correctly, that's what.
So you don't always have to spend on it, but just important to ensure that the type of stuff you're spending money on is high quality. Okay, so we went through channels, goals and budgets. This is something that we really like to emphasize for you, which is defining your buyer personas. Because what ultimately happens is if you understand your customers better and you tailor and segment your messaging for them, ultimately you will end up having a lower cost of acquisition, and your best buyer personas are going to be developed from your own existing customer base. So we really think that this is we are mandated to do this before any campaign, whether social or performance for us launches, because it really helps you think. This is just a few sample buyer personas, and honestly now ChatGPT is amazing.
Yeah.
Earlier we used to sit and write each, but now if you just say that, okay, give me a buyer persona for my jewelry brand which has these
But does it
specific
not
products.
replicate, like if suppose let's say 10 brands are asking for a jewelry writer, so उसमें वो नहीं होता है then
buyer persona is accurate information.
Yeah.
No,
This is market
And it is
research.
the same for everybody
Yeah, it
across
is the
the
same.
industry.
no, so but then when you advertise and when Google picks up that you know your content is very similar, that
No,
pushes
no,
you
no.
back.
I'm not saying use this for your content. I'm saying this is all in the planning stage, right? Like
Yeah.
when you're figuring out who are my 4 ideal customers. So over here, again, this was for the rug brand. We have very different type of people. One is Rahul, who's 32 years old from Bangalore, who's a young professional, recently married. Then we have Priya, she's 36 from Hyderabad, she's a homemaker with kids. So each of, like what the buyer personas help you understand is how would each of their goals, motivations, pain points and shopping behaviors differ. And then how we sort of actually map this on is we have different audiences set up for each of these target personas that we have. So we have a Priya audience, we have a Rahul audience, and then you have different ads also running for them. So for Priya, again, this rug brand is spill proof in the sense that like if something spills, you can easily wash it. So for her, we're focusing on that washable aspect because she has kids, she has a pet at home. Like when we're sort of brainstorming who she is. So that's how you can actually activate it. But this is just a good exercise for you to figure out who is my target audience going to be. Then we have Meera Desai, who's 60. She's an empty nester or a retiree. So again, they're very different types of people, but they could all be your target customer.
So how did you get the shopping behavior?
Honestly, ChatGPT. It's really good. I'm also showing you a very shortened version of it. They give you descriptors which are like, what could her key problems be? Can you help me with the marketing messaging? Obviously, take it with a pinch of salt, but this type of stuff is like, it's very, very on point for your brand.
Just ask for a buyer persona.
Yeah, just say, can you please help me with a buyer persona for this brand and give them more information. Like I told them we told them it's washable. We have a bunch of different designs. Like as much as you can feed to them. Like the reason I'm saying use
This
it.
thing has started on WhatsApp. No, you ask anything, anywhere, information.
Yeah. But how do you do buyer personas for B2B businesses where there are multiple decision makers?
So even on that, what we sort of figure out is who is the influencer in that decision making and who's the final decision maker, right? Because what we see in B2B is you have to reach that person who's leaving an influence on that main decision maker. So say like a brand head versus the CMO, just give you an example. So you will have content and ads that are tailored towards that first like the first guy, the brand guy, and then as you sort of move up the funnel, we would have defined that buyer persona for the CMO also, but then we show them different types of content, be targeting them differently on LinkedIn as well.
Because in B2B there are about 3 to 4 different roles. So do I need to have a separate campaign for each role? Like one is the gatekeeper, the influencer, the decision maker, those kind of different.
Ideally, we like to approach it in that way because the person who's ultimately making the decision doesn't they may not be searching on Google, but if they see something interesting on LinkedIn, they may come across it and actually want to engage with that content. So we're working with this company that does energy efficiency for very specific terms, say like a gen set and all. That person is not the person making the decision. If they're looking at decarbonization, which is like a higher level concept, that's where the ultimate decision maker actually comes into our funnel.
Okay. So you run a different campaign, a different...
Yeah, because the targeting also on LinkedIn would be different, right? Like their job roles, their job titles and all would be different. You'd want to show them a little bit more thought leader type of content, say for example, to the decision maker.
Okay. And does ChatGPT help in identifying all these different kind of buyer personas?
Yeah, and if they don't, you can just say, okay, can you give me one more? Can you refine it further?
Okay. It depends on how detailed your prompt is.
Yeah.
Your prompt really needs
The
to
more
be information you feed them, the more they can analyze and generate that.
Is influencer marketing a part of performance marketing? Because it's become so big, so huge that influencers are charging off the roof. And they suddenly become the divas and the gods of the space. One post, 2 gods of the space. Saying God will use this.
It is, but I have lost faith in bigger influencers.
Really? It's annoying to see them
if
now.
you're spending a lakh to send someone product, you may as well spend a lakh and get that data
exactly.
for yourself.
So you don't suggest, right?
I mean, I'm not writing it
know,
off,
I know,
but I think
understand.
micro influencers work better than these larger, massive ones who charge you 75,000 per post.
They're charging lakhs, not 7,000 to is not there for them now.
And what is the micro influencer charge?
Depends, some of them.
Doesn't it also depend on your product?
also when you're there.
Yeah, but it also depends on what the influencers, like what we've seen, the bigger influencers will be promoting 6 different food brands. You just get lost in that, every post that they're posting because you don't trust them. So it's like, how authentic they are, what is your product.
But
But we
in our experience in the past 2 years working with larger influencers,
And the amount of trust.
So you would suggest to work like six micro different influencers and put their ads.
yeah, as long as, again, that depends. I'm not an influencer marketing expert, so I don't want to provide more information on that. It depends on what your campaign goal is. We work with this salad brand called Harvest Salad. In the start of their journey, we worked with larger influencers, no movement on followers, orders, nothing. Last month, we did a Shake That Salad campaign with micro influencers across Bombay. And then our followers grew by 6,000. The orders actually saw an impact because those guys aren't working with 10 different brands and everyone isn't going to them, so it allowed us to sort of stand out. And there they were charging like say 10,000 whatever per post, but then we were actually seeing like, okay, that post got 100 shares. We were like, okay, great, at least 100 more people at minimum know about this brand, right? This is another sample for the same brand over there. Cool, so we've gone over audiences, now going into like what's the right channel that actually works for your brand and audience. Again, if you're on, say if you're doing B2B, it would be LinkedIn and Google Ads. If you're more on D2C, we would suggest Meta and Google Ads to start with, and then once you have enough faith in that, sort of move on to other channels if you'd like to. We see this often, which is like, okay, we're going digital and everyone wants to sort of spend on every single channel. We don't recommend that. We suggest that you figure out like 1 or 2 at the max channels that are going to work for you and then take it from there. Don't try to spread yourself too thin because that doesn't work in the long run. So you had some questions about what channels are relevant for what. So this is a slide that sort of goes over that. So within Facebook, it has, again, audience targeting. It's very suitable for B2C businesses. You can drive website traffic.
Will you send us this presentation?
Yeah. Instagram is more visual. It's for a younger audience, which is also changing now. You can boost brand engagement, more product discovery, and also ends up being a very good place for D2C conversions. So again, with any food brand that's selling, rug brands, interior, fashion, all of that works very well on Instagram. Amazon is also an important aspect of this, depending on if you actually sell on Amazon or not. Amazon ads are also incredible in my opinion. You have to just use sponsored ads to sort of make sure that your ad shows up at any given point. LinkedIn is great for B2B because you can target down to like what company they work for, how many years of experience they have, what is their job title. It's great for lead generation. It tends to be a little bit more expensive, but as long as your content and targeting is sound, it will work really well. Google, as you guys know, it's very intent driven. So if someone is actually searching, you can actually show your product in that moment. So say for you with like the wedding space, if someone is actually looking for something related to weddings, then you can drop a pin in Mumbai or drop a pin in say this area. You can make sure that at least that person is seeing your ad, and if they click, you will get charged. If they don't click, you won't get charged.
But how do you drop the pin? Like
the platform allows you to do it. There's a Google Ads platform.
So the social media person who's doing your work with
the performance marketing person, yeah, would help you with.
I have a question. So every time I search anything on Google, I kind of get an ad of that on Instagram, like similar brands, after. And I purposely do that if I'm trying to buy something, what I do is I go on Google, I don't get the brands that I want, and next time whenever I open Instagram, there's a ton of
That's why ads
what is that category?
So that's because I'm assuming you must have clicked on some website or something that's gone to it. So that could either be the remarketing or then again Meta's jumping off the interest targeting that you have.
So it's Meta ads only that's
space. And most cases, like if you go to a specific, like I got very annoyed with Bliss Club for example, because as soon I would be on their website for 1 second and then my entire Instagram was filled with it. That's their remarketing strategy. That's why you need to make sure that your pixel is completely on point. But you have to also be smart about remarketing because you don't want to annoy your customer to that degree.
Yeah. And they also send you an email.
It's an athleisure brand.
It's an athleisure brand.
Sorry?
Athleisure.
Track pants and all that, exercise
and all that. But theirs is like in your face.
They advertise
It's
very
in your
heavily.
face. Typically for remarketing, we say like if someone has engaged with say 3 pages of your website, then show them an ad like immediately. Otherwise, just let them
breathe a bit,
Yeah.
and then show them an ad maybe 5 days later or 2 days later.
Do people use Facebook? Do you get
Yeah.
Yeah, we get Facebook because again the benefit is that again there's a big bunch of older audiences who are active
Also
on it.
tier 2, tier 3
And
cities
tier
are
three,
still on Facebook, not us. But tier
Yeah,
2,
and
tier
what's
3 is heavily on
happening is that
Facebook.
everyone has this assumption that no one's on Facebook, so advertisers are going into the platform and saying, okay, I only want to spend on Instagram, but that's actually counterintuitive because you're ending up spending more by making your campaign more specific. So when you use Ads Manager, Meta allows you to say, okay, choose both placements, which is actually the best approach because then Meta is only choosing where your money should be spent. And when you get the reports, depending on the brand, most of the times Instagram spends more, but don't try and force them to only spend on Instagram because it becomes too expensive for you. If there is even 10% of an audience, let them see it on Facebook. There's no harm.
Google also has a bunch of options. Even when I get into Ad Manager, they have search, they have display.
Yeah.
Then they have
Demand
a specific category now. Performance marketing is a separate category.
Performance Max, yeah.
Yeah, Performance Max, correct.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you select within Google Ad Manager as well? What is the right channel? What is the right option?
So I have slides on Google, I can go over that, but just to answer your question, Performance Max works the best for e-commerce companies. There's this thing called demand generation, which is a new thing which works really, really well for B2B. And so, demand gen, yeah. It's called a demand gen campaign. It's a new campaign they created, which is basically they use, again, AI and machine learning to sort of get you the most apt customer for your brand. But like say for B2B, for you, I would say search would be the first thing you should opt into along with this demand generation.
Okay.
So where do you go and see demand?
On the Google Ads platform. If you, I can show you guys a platform at the end.
Yeah.
So it's easy because.
And what do you think about quick e-commerce like Blinkit and Zepto?
Those are great.
Instamart.
If you have the ability to deliver on that. So we're working with Baskin Robbins. So one of our landing pages for them is a link tree which takes you to quick commerce. Because then it's instant. And we do the same for restaurant brands, taking them to Swiggy and Zomato. So you can instantly get it. If your question is about advertising on those platforms, like when you're
On Blinkit and
those are good, but those are going to be way more expensive than any of these platforms. But again, the person is going to be much more ready to convert. It's like advertising on Amazon, right? They'll be way more.
Because I've realized that the quick e-commerce, where you can get it in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, is getting more in demand than Nykaa or Amazon. I'll tell you why, because as a customer, Amazon will take 2 days, 3 days to come, even if I'm a Prime member, okay? Blinkit is there in 15 minutes. You're paying $50 delivery or $20 depending on the value of your product, but you get it.
Yeah.
So I think now quick e-commerce is taking over Nykaa, Amazon. That's what I feel.
No, definitely. But as long as your product is available on there,
Yeah,
speak
exactly.
to them.
But it's so
and-
difficult to get onto them.
Yeah,
Because
that's
there is no number to call on. I have sent them 100 emails. They never reply. There is no number. कितना भी ढूंढ निकालो, there is no number that you can call on. You only have to send mails.
She's so like, wanted,
I'm very realistic.
These apps are also location specific.
And honestly, it's also which I've realized is that we are on Blinkit. We were invited to be a part of Blinkit, Instamart and all that stuff. So it's a very complicated job. Okay, so we are on SlickFix is a fashion dressing. So it's our brand, and I know the amount of work goes on that. It's a lot of work, and you have to be quick in delivery and efficiency.
Yeah.
And the point is that we are realizing that spending on these quick e-commerce platforms is better than spending on Amazon and Nykaa Fashion and Purple, Flipkart or whatever. So
so I think that's because the person is most likely to convert in that state because they've come to Blinkit.
And they want quality products.
Yeah.
Blinkit is very particular about the product.
But I didn't
They
know
want
you fine jewelry is also there on Blinkit.
No,
And people want jewelry in 10
This I'm
minutes.
talking about my B2C.
That's what because I thought
That's
fine
true.
jewelry Blinkit is.
So there again, like there the keyword targeting is great on Zepto, Blinkit and everything there, which is a similar approach.
No, but they are very.
So as soon as when you say keyword targeting.
Yeah, what does that mean?
So like someone who's searching for a specific product. So say I'm using fruits, but if I'm looking for like a lemon or a diaper or something, then the ads that I should, then ideally I'm going to see products depending on what I'm searching for.
So immediately it shows your like.
Yeah, if you work with, if they, depends on the setup you have for them, but then I need to also specify the cost per clicks on Swiggy, Zomato, Zepto, Blinkit, any of these will be much higher than these type of advertising platforms because you're paying a little bit more because that person is ready to convert. Even Amazon cost per click is higher, but again that person has come to Amazon to convert, right? So it's fine. Your conversion rates will be higher, but your cost per click and everything may end up also being higher.
But then if it compensates for the.
Yeah, it depends again, you have to sort of analyze the data. So for that fan client I showed you, we turned off all our spends on Meta and everything, and now we spend mainly on Amazon and we drive some amount of traffic to our Amazon page only. Because we're like, no one wants to order a fan on a website. And even with him, we were trying to convince him to get onto quick commerce, but it didn't work out for whatever reason. But the point is that you want to spend where your customer is going to be most likely to convert. Finally, then with YouTube, it's video sharing. It's really, really good for brand exposure and storytelling, and it allows you to engage with your audience effectively. Most brands will focus on these two primary channels. One is demand fulfillment, which is Google. Meta is for demand generation. And again, whether it's an e-commerce company, Amazon is likely to be in the mix. I just have this table over here, which is like how to prioritize if you have a lower budget. So since I've already gone through a lot of this, I don't want to go through this again, but when you guys get the presentation, you guys can just go through this. It depends on like new product launch, like do you want to drive direct orders to your website, you want good, like high quality traffic. It depends on that, so just take a look at this when we send it. So this all ultimately, like we went over the goals, what your budget is, who are your target audiences, and then we selected the channels also based off of that. That all sort of culminates into this thing we call the media plan, which is over here. I've just given you an example of one of the media plans for the brands we work with. So over here we sort of define, okay, what is the platform, what is the targeting, what is the campaign objective over here, and where is the ad going to be placed, what's the daily budget going to be, and how much are we going to spend. And over here, so for this client, it's a heavily e-commerce driven client. It's not an Indian client, but we have sort of fixed this based off of that because now we've worked with them say for 3 months and now we know that okay, conversion is the main focus. But if they were still in their awareness stage, the KPI may have switched to say clicks, video views, depending on what stage of your journey you are in.
So what is the sale that you're creating for them by spending $12,400 per month?
So our return on ad spend for them is 7. So we made around 84.
$84,000?
Yeah.
That's almost
7x.
like
7. 12 into 7, so it becomes, for every dollar you're spending, you're getting $7 back.
Oh, so basically, yeah.
Yeah. So,
7x.
Yeah, 7x, which is the return on ad. So we have all these goals set up with brands before we work.
And does it always work?
It doesn't always work. There are situations in which it sort of like your ROAS may not always end up being what it's at. We've had those situations, but that's when all those other factors also make a difference. Like, is your audience targeting correct? What creative are you showing? Is your website great? Like, we had an issue where everything was perfect, but the website was horrible compared to other e-commerce websites. So then we told the client, we took a break with the client ourselves. We were like, you fix your website and then come back to us. Because we don't want, like, after 1.5, 2 months, if we know everything we're changing isn't working, then it has to be something else that may not be working at that moment. And this is again easier to sort of track when it comes to e-commerce with other sort of, if you're a restaurant brand or something, we do this daily tracking week on week to just figure out how much are we spending versus how much are we getting.
Sorry, the last time we were talking about the ROAS, is that something about changing the creative in the first 7 days?
Not in the first 7 days. Like once it reaches, like say your ROAS is like just stabilized, it's not going up, it's not going down, you can just infuse that new creative, and what happens is when a new creative goes out, I meant that like any new creative for the first 7 days will always do really well. So as a quick fix to sort of like, boost the performance or something like that, we always recommend like introducing a piece of content which is along the similar lines of something that's worked for you before. So for one brand, we know video works really well. So any nude content we put out is 99% going to be video content.
Do you think stories, reels, or posts? What
You need
is
to have a
more-
good mix of videos and posts.
Not
Because-
reels and stories.
I think you don't have to get that specific in my opinion, because your reel can show up in a story placement also, right? So right now what's working best for us are reels and carousel posts. Carousel, where you swipe through and you
An
see
album.
like that album post on Instagram. There's multiple
On one post.
Yeah. For that previous media plan I showed you, for them carousels is working mainly. But they aren't an Indian brand, so I'm not sharing just that. But in India right now, a good mix of videos and carousels works with us.
Video basically. And character.
Yeah. But again, the caveat there is we work with a finance client, for them static images work the best.
Okay.
Static and carousel, for them video is not, unless the video is super engaging and like you're telling someone like, this is what you need to do to convert and like sort of increase your your wealth or whatever. For most BFSI brands, we see that static imagery and carousel posts work better, but for D2C, jewelry, any of that, it's videos and carousels.
What is BFSI?
The industry, like the banking finance. Okay, so we went through planning. Now the second part, which is also very important, is your implementation. So this is basically your creative planning, your audience selection, ensuring your tracking is set up correctly, and also having a testing roadmap. I'll get to what all of this means. So starting with creative planning, this is really, really important because it's a very simple way to sort of change or boost your performance marketing. Number one is think about your funnel and think about your customers. So when you're sort of advertising, depending if you're trying to advertise to someone who's never heard about your brand, you need to think about, okay, I need to put out a video which is like a 15-second explainer about what my brand does. In the consideration phase, okay, maybe they've seen your video now and you want them to actually make some type of decision or actually message you on Instagram or have some type of conversation. That content may have to differ a little bit compared to what you're just showing them as a brand introduction. So say, first is a brand introduction. Then in the consideration stage, you can show them a carousel of, okay, this is the variety of products that I have. And then ultimately with the decision, what we always recommend, if you're okay with it, is put testimonials out there, put any user-generated content, because that will actually tell them to, encourage them to finally make that decision, whether it's giving you the information, buying the product, whatever it is. So something as simple as like adding the amount of star ratings that you get, say on Amazon, or that you've amassed over time, if you're a brand that's been around for long, you can easily do that. If you don't have testimonials and you're a new brand, you can drive credibility, like internal credibility, which is like, okay, using only like highest quality ingredients, no refined sugar, I'm just giving you examples. You can drive your internal credibility through that, like well researched, whatever it is. That's how you can do it. Then you also should do competitive research. Spend time researching what other brands are doing. Don't copy them, but it's a good place to gain inspiration and understand what's working for them. And there are two amazing tools which I'll show you over here, where you can actually spy on what your competitors are doing. And apply best practices. This is a very big thing that we see, where clients will just give us like social media content and we like use it. It doesn't always work for performance marketing, because you need to think that someone who's seen your content on social has already agreed to follow you, and they're willing to go through your content and watch like a longer video, for example. But when it comes to performance marketing, you need to ensure that, okay, there's a good call to action. It should be between like at max 20 seconds, 7 to 15 is ideal. Just make sure that your ads are repurposed in a way that it's actually apt for performance marketing, and think you have like 5 seconds to get that person's attention. So what would you do? Like, what are your main brand USPs that you want to show? Like social media, you end up doing a little bit more of storytelling, but with performance marketing, you need to be a little bit quick and to the point. So this is an example of what I was referring to when it came to the funnel. So this was again for a finance client. So what we said at awareness, ideally we would like a brand video which highlights investment services and the sub-broker facilities. In consideration, we want to show the USPs, the benefits of investing, any type of infographics that we have. In decision, can we like ideally we want to use any video testimonials from existing clients and sub-brokers, statistics to build trust, and any type of, like, they had say they've been in the business for like 10 plus years. You can use that as a
So
mark
a
of
firm like
credibility.
Prabhudas also, Vedanta also needs social media performance marketing?
Yeah.
Really?
We help them with their performance marketing. This is another, and this is now in terms of like the different types of creative messaging approaches that you can take. So one is say problem solution. So this is for our rug client that we work with. This is just have a problem solution approach. So the example I gave you about, they are washable rugs. So we show, in the video we'll show them that something has actually spilled on the rug and now you can clean it easily. But it's like a 7-second we're just focused on that, and it's one of the best performers because we've attacked the problem and given them the solution with our product. UGC, if you have in the past spent on influencer marketing, or you have a good base of customers who are sort of wearing your product or eating your product or anything, you can use UGC. Emotional storytelling, also if you have a good videographer and good video team, works really well. So we're here just about, you need to brainstorm all the different types of approaches you can take. And what we did in this is we started only with 2. We started just with UGC and problem solution. And now as the months go by, we sort of expand to these other different creative types. So this is a really good tool. It's called Meta Ads Library, where you can actually spy on what your competitors are doing. So this is a summary of what Sleepy Owl Coffee is running for their ads, and you can just see it instantly. It's really effective. So at any point, anyone can access Meta Ads Library. It's just to click, go on a link, put in whatever ad that you like, company you want to see, and then you can see what people are running.
So just ads.
Just
type it out.
this is
Is
an
an
app
app to it?
Yeah. It's a website, yeah.
Here. So I just put in Sleepy Owl Coffee and they're showing me everything that they're running.
So I don't think it's the insights, right? It's just what
Yeah,
ad
you
they're
can't
running.
see that
Yeah.
campaign performance. You can see what ads they're running, when they.
The creative
So this,
inspiration.
you just type Meta,
Here, it's the ads. You just like facebook.com/ads/library.
And same way in Insta
Yeah.
also?
Yeah, yeah,
How do you go here? On the laptop?
Yeah, you can go on your phone also.
How?
You just type it out.
Is this a part of your slide that you'll be sending us?
Yeah, I'll send you a link.
Yeah, so that,
Insert,
we should
right?
remember.
But if your Instagram is a business account, it will be connected to a Facebook page.
Yeah, it's
So when you go on your Facebook, it will have Meta ads.
Yeah, what's
Just
the
on
name?
what search.
You got everyone's inside.
This is so much motivation, seeing the library, oh, you're running something.
Guys, you can just Google Meta Ads Library. It's the first search result.
But still you get this thing, oh my god, so
You know what, I'm getting
the
Coursera.
fear of losing out on what we should be
So that's
also
a
doing
that's a
this.
paid ad. Sponsor ad.
Yes, yes, it is.
That's
sort of,
Google
you know,
Ads.
they instigate you also. So
then
not
mine is
just so many we are missing out. We are not advertising enough. We are not spending enough. They take you on the good.
I think maybe we just set it up
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
otherwise what is
We are doing so much, we are not doing anything. Where do you know?
I choose in Marathi also sometimes. Just choose all and then you can either way put the brand.
Where is not in this?
See, this is Marathi.
Very nice. Okay, no problem. Muffin, sorry. Get
Yeah,
the
we put
coffee.
on a laptop.
Have the coffee and telling you I don't share the coffee.
I'll share.
It's too small, yeah, you cannot. Don't get so.
Okay, we'll send you guys a link, guys. Google has the same thing. It's called Google Ads Transparency Center, and you can see everything people are running. So I've given you an example of Adidas. You can see the display ads they're running, the search ads they're running. So you have complete insight into what is going on in the market.
This is Google Ads Transparency.
Yeah. So this is what you need to Google search to actually come to this, and then you can just put the brand name.
you're sending it in the presentation.
Yeah.
Anupama, no presentation for me.
Yeah, I said
Every single slide.
And I love the ground right and I go home, it's like, oh, where is the paper?
It's also getting recorded. So it's going to go up on social media.
You can, if you're ever, now this is showing the American stuff, but during our like camps, like during elections, you could see every single ad, BJP, Congress, anyone was running. So if you're ever bored and just want to check it out also, you can do it. Okay, so moving now to the actual implementation on Meta ads. We, like again, I've recommended that this is a good place to leverage the power of social to find new prospects and customers and sort of just show them about your brand. Within Meta, this is all the different things that they host. So anytime you're running a campaign, these are the four platforms you can sort of run ads to within the Meta Ads Manager. So there's this thing called Meta Ads Manager which allows you to run ads across any of these platforms if you want to run ads.
So this new thing had started is WhatsApp ads where you have to pay that, and it was so annoying because every day you were at least blocking 10 WhatsApp chats because the advertising on WhatsApp it becomes so heavy that I think customers were getting annoyed.
So Meta still doesn't allow you to self-serve ads on WhatsApp. This is more like I want to.
You have to sign up, na? For
Yeah, that you have to sign up. Or I can drive traffic to WhatsApp. So say, okay, buy silver jewelry. Message, because people want a message, right? So you can drive traffic directly from your ad to your WhatsApp number.
How do you do that?
Through Meta Ads Manager. You can pick a specific objective to sort of.
And where do I go to in Meta Ads? Where is it? It's on search or?
You basically have to go to Ads Manager, which is where the whole ad platform shows up for you. And in this case, you would choose messages.
Okay.
So this is basically how it starts off. They'll tell you like, okay, when you're creating the ad campaign on Meta, they'll say what's your objective. So depending on what your objective is, you need to sort of pick one of these. And within messages, if you choose messages, they'll either make you choose DMs going to Instagram, or if your WhatsApp business is verified and connected through your, like that's a little bit technical now on the back end of the business manager and all, then you can automatically start driving traffic directly to your WhatsApp.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it works really well in India, that WhatsApp ad thing. So this is just how we went over earlier. Depending on what you're trying to spend and what your goals are, you can, it's awareness, consideration, conversion. So depending on any of this, you choose what your objective
And
would
the
be.
blue tick on your account, it can be bought also, right now?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? When we are watching some of the points, that's what
The thing is, now
Then
you
you click on the WhatsApp and then ask what you want.
That's how they're going to make the
conversion traffic.
No, when you are on Instagram, when you're looking at something, WhatsApp, icon. When you click on that, you can go on there and look at WhatsApp number.
That must be the ad which will, the call to action should say send WhatsApp message.
So they tell you, you can go there, then discuss there. So
one is a WhatsApp application most people will have on their website. Where that button just sort of
anything, like suppose a post is made by someone's follower.
that must be the WhatsApp objective only that you're saying.
Oh, WhatsApp.
Yeah. That has to be, if the logo is there, it's the WhatsApp objective.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You know, in the previous slide, there was brand awareness and traffic. So what is the difference between brand awareness and traffic?
Yeah. So brand awareness would be, so typically in brand awareness and reach, your main goal is either to get reach as many people as possible or get as many impressions as is possible for you. With traffic, so this is the most top level, this is going a little bit deeper in. So brand awareness are very top level metrics. I want to reach 1 million people, for example. So when we work with like larger brands like Belgian and Baskin, we do those type of buy-ins because they just want to make as many people aware of their say new product in that place.
Everybody is their audience.
Yeah, everyone's their audience, so it works. With traffic, that's a little bit more sort of filtered, and the traffic could mean, okay, I want to get as many people on my website.
So this will be optimized for say impressions, reach, video views, depending on what you're doing. Traffic will most likely be optimized for clicks. You mentioned engagements also, right? So like they may optimize depending on what you're sort of promoting. If you're doing use existing post, it'll say okay, engagement, I want to get more, but they count likes also as engagement. So to keep that in mind. Traffic is a little bit more, it's a more qualified goal. So in like say, like ideally you want to spend more budget on your traffic objective because it ends up being a little bit more expensive than brand awareness and reach, but then that person is ultimately coming to your website. And awareness you'll pay on that CPM model that I was discussing earlier, and traffic you'll pay on a CPC model.
And engagement is what model?
Will be CPE, cost per engagement, same. So
But that's the cheapest.
yeah, no, this is actually the cheapest, but then that person may not end up clicking. So in an awareness campaign, your click-through rate is going to be like the highest it'll go is 1%. But in traffic and engagement and any of these campaigns, you'll see a much larger click-through rate.
Correct.
But isn't reach and brand awareness the same thing?
No, because that's also different according to them. I'm like we also
like
from our perspective it makes the same thing. But with brand awareness, so with a lot of brands, what we work with is that I want to reach. Say reach is unique reach. So in this room, say there's 20 of us. That's the campaign's reach. But if each of us see the ads twice, the impressions is 40. So that brand awareness would take into consideration how many times that person has seen the ad also. Yeah, store traffic is basically like in store traffic if you have an offline store, but that you need to have some type of technical back-end integration that works. It's not super like it's not great in India yet. In the US and foreign markets it works very well. These are some of the targeting capabilities that we have. Maybe you guys already know, I'll just quickly go over this. Custom audiences is also like if you already have a good amount of data for at minimum 200 data points for your brand, you can upload that customer list to any of the platforms, either Google or Meta, and then they'll try and sort of target exactly that audience, or you can even then use that audience to create a lookalike audience. So again, with e-commerce or most brands, if you're trying to get a quality consumer, leveraging your own data is the best way to do that, because they're going to be the most likely to convert. And custom audiences will also include things like we were discussing about remarketing. So someone who's engaged with your website, someone who's been to a specific page, someone who's watched 50% of your video, someone who's watched a specific video on your Instagram page. Those are custom audiences. Lookalikes are basically similar audiences is an easier way to say it. And Meta allows you to choose how similar you want it to be. So they have this thing called like lookalike 1%, which means that there's only going to be 1% deviance from, it's going to be 99% alike to your customer. So that will be the most specific one. So their lookalike audiences is definitely something that, say when you're like working with agencies, you can question them all. It's like, are you using lookalike audiences? Because ideally they should be if you have some amount of data points. Demographic targeting, this I'm sure you guys all know, is age, gender, education, job title, all of that. Interests is like, what are the specific interests and hobbies that they've had? Behavioral would be like, they have this thing called engaged shoppers, recently moved, all of that falls under sort of behavioral
I've never
targeting.
seen where it comes as behavioral targeting and all when you go and spend this.
If you do it from a post boost, you won't see it. You need to
Ads
be
manager.
logged to ads manager. All of this is all mainly talking about getting on ads manager, and there's no downside to being on ads manager. You don't have to pay, you don't have to do anything. It's just better targeting, more control over your objectives.
But as a entrepreneur, you wouldn't be not doing this, right?
Sorry?
We would not be doing this.
No,
It should be
I
the social media person who's
Ideally.
handling it, it should be doing
Yeah.
that.
But I
they
also-
should create awareness to your entrepreneurs also, right? That people, like, you're doing my job, suppose. Okay, so you will make us aware of these things, or we should know about it?
No,
as
no,
a-
no. As the specialist should make you aware about these things.
They should,
Ideally.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you are an experimental person and want to sort of experiment with it, by all means, I think it's a great way that you can. But ideally you should have some type of expert helping you with it.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise you don't want to burn cash. That's the main like fear in this.
So when you say lookalike, is that people who've already interacted with your page, or do you give them like a list of like email IDs?
So it
and
works
then
in
they kind of-
it works in two ways. The lookalike is basically formed out of your custom audiences. So whatever you upload here can form the base of the lookalike. So it can be either someone who's visited your website, it can be that long list of customers that you're uploading onto the platform. So it can be both. The best results we see is when you use data, like an actual upload, and then do a lookalike, say 3 to 4% lookalike on that.
So if you upload, say your, you know, you have a whole list, say 100 people or 500 people or whatever, you upload that and you'll actually tag that to what their persona profile, whatever it is in the.
It'll map.
It'll look at their profile and then kind of.
Yeah. So say for me, if someone is uploading my data, they'll try to look for someone 99% similar to me. So based off of content I'm engaging with, where I live, what's my job title, or on Facebook, but job title doesn't end up being a big mover. It's more my interests and where I stay, age, gender, all of that. Location targeting, like I mentioned, you can use very specific location targeting. We tend to keep our tier 1 and tier 2 campaigns separate for most brands because that just makes sense. Because tier 2 is also cheaper to advertise in. Live events is also great for any side, you know, especially for you, for like weddings.
Sorry to interrupt. I didn't know this, that if you, it's also, the cost also depends on the cities that you choose?
Yeah, Bombay is the most expensive
Really?
city to advertise in India. Bombay, Delhi are the most expensive, then Bangalore, Hyderabad, all of that. So tier 2, the cost per 1,000
So when you start out, you can tell your agency to start out with tier 2 cities. If you
Yeah,
think there is a market.
or keep a balance.
Keep a balance.
You have a limited budget, but it
Yeah,
makes
it
sense.
depends on your product.
No, of course
Like
you know
food
that tier 2
is
cities.
not possible out of Bombay. If you are
Of course, only if you know your
Yeah,
target
yeah.
audiences in tier 2 city. Not otherwise, yeah.
Again, I'm using this rug brand as an example. With them, we actually ended up getting a lower cost per purchase from the tier 2 cities, but the return on ad spend was lower. So you need to think through that. I'm acquiring customers, but they may not have the spending power that someone sitting in Bombay or Hyderabad has. But it's fine. I'm still getting my customers in at that certain cost per acquisition. Live events are also really cool because you can target people with upcoming birthdays, anniversaries, recently engaged, friends who recently engaged, all of that. Target users who engage with your own Facebook page, and offline activity. Again, this is not super built out in India yet, but it is something that we use for our brands that we work with outside of India.
So the live events targeting means somebody's having a wedding. I want them to see my post.
Yeah.
So I have to tell my social media person that you put it on this pin, you know, so that people on, suppose that in June there's a wedding happening, they will see my post. That's what it means.
No, by live events, so one is that's location targeting when you drop a pin in
So you
June.
have to inform your
Yeah.
social media person
But
that
ideally the person should be coming to you with those ideas. Saying that, okay, let's drop a pin. Like, but if you're having a specific event or there's something that you know that's going on, then you tell them that like, okay,
yeah, they would not go on where the weddings are happening always.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, depends on the person, I guess.
You have to define your audience to them, na? That I want people who are
Like
getting
for
married.
our food brands, where it's like, say, Harvest Salad Co., we know that like we went with the idea that listen, we focus on these type of like places like Birla Centurion, BKC, all of that buildings in BKC, because we know that's where most of the people are going to be ordering at lunchtime. So our lunchtime ads only serve there. They're not serving in like South Bombay, and not because people bring their lunch, for example, or they have ways to like figure out their own lunch. But that combined with like live events, more apt for your wedding thing would be then you choose within Meta, okay, recently engaged, 6 months since they've been engaged, 6 months since they've been married. So that's a better way to go about that type of targeting than when someone, because you may have a wedding but it may also have 1,000 other things going on. You'd rather use the live event targeting to qualify that customer. This is just, again, these are screenshots of the actual platform on how you can drop the pins and everything. So this is the pin radius. So like here we dropped it in, you can drop, this is a Colaba pin code where we've taken. But then over here we've dropped a pin near Chembur and then said, okay, I want to target 8 kilometers around it. We meant delivery radius if you're a food brand.
then that matters in terms of how far you can reach and how far you can deliver. Age, gender, language. Again, language is something really cool that actually works in India. If you are a brand that has mass reach and you have localized ads running, you can target based off of how someone is actually, in what language are they using Meta. So Hindi, Bengali, Punjabi, Marathi, so you can do a lot of regional stuff with that. Interest groups, this should map back to your buyer persona. So over here, this is for a food brand again, we have foodies which is broad, but then we also have a vegetarian audience, which again in Bombay tends to work really well. And in that vegetarian audience, we won't show them like, say, chicken being cooked and stuff like that. So it just allows you to be a little bit more segmented, because sometimes we run into issues where like one vegetarian sees the ad and then everything goes wrong. But so you have ways to sort of control that. Your question about custom audiences, so on Meta, they let you pick from any of this. So website, so how are they engaging on your website? Customer list is the thing that we would upload. Videos, like how much of their, like what video were they watching, how much of it did they watch. Lead form is also like, say if you're doing a lead campaign and you want to target people who opened the lead form but didn't fill it out, you can even target based off of that. And then obviously these are Instagram account is who's even engaging with your Instagram account. You can choose in the last 30 days, 60 days, 180 days.
But sure, you can only put yours. You can't put.
No, you can only put yours in this.
So you can't put someone
No, you
who's
can't put
engaging
someone
with a
else.
competitor or.
That you should ideally try and I'll show you in the next. We have a few audience examples. So I've built out these audience examples to just show you a few different spaces. This is just luxury. So what we've done over here is we've chosen like very specific things. So like JW Marriott, first class travel, Taj, Shangri-La, Hilton, again, Starwood Hotels, Carlton. And then what we've done is, so first you start with location, age, gender, interest, and also match frequent international travelers. So if you're a luxury brand in India, I know it's obviously travel is changing, but frequent international travelers tends to be a good qualifier, which doesn't make it too limited for you. So ideally, this is what Ads Manager allows you to do, that boosting mode allows you to do. So you can just really narrow.
Interest you kind of pick from a list.
Yeah, they have a huge list. You can just type, say, anything that comes to your mind. They may have it, they may not. To be completely transparent, in the last 2 years, Facebook has made their targeting a little less detailed. Earlier, like I could target, say, an almond milk or oat milk consumer. Now I can only target nut milk. They've just sort of like merged some of that stuff. But all the general stuff that I'm showing you right now is all available.
Like earlier you could put we were on shopper.
That's still, like, they're big enough to have that audience, so they'll have it, like worldwide or whatever. But like earlier,
Basically, you go on the search engine and write Meta ads or
manager, yeah. I'll send you guys the link to the
yeah, please.
Yeah.
So this,
You can use it on the app also.
It's very easy on that.
Yeah. I am a little traditional. I think the laptop makes it, there's less errors that happen.
Yeah.
On ads. Like if you're launching ads and all, just the first time do it on the laptop. Once you're used to it, you can use your phone.
So this is a very broad example you put here. So if I'm defining my audience personas and I'm running, say, one particular ad, how many audience personas can I put in that? Is there like a number? Or do you suggest we make different ads for different audience personas? Like right now you've written 24 to 65.
Yeah.
This is a very
So
wide.
this is going to be a better example of something more specific. This is 40 to 60-year-old males. It's only a 20-year gap.
Yeah.
But that fits into what our persona was, and you just, but your audience size. So Meta and Google tell you on the side as you're creating the audience, is your audience good? Is it too broad? Is it too specific? So ideally,
But as a suggestion, would we rather make ads like this, where the audience persona is very, very narrow, or can we?
if you're a luxury product, keep it narrow.
Okay.
If you're a little bit more, like if your product is more relevant to many types of people, you can keep it broader.
Okay.
This is an example for interiors. This is just to show you like the level of detailing you can go into in terms of like the types of magazines. Jaipur Rugs has its own thing now because they've built up a huge audience over time.
bedding, garden,
So when you
carpet.
say people who match means the audience who are going and clicking on all these
Who are
sites.
engaging with
These
content,
sites.
not websites. Engaging with Instagram,
Instagram
or
on these
Facebook
of these
content
brands
of these brands.
are your targeted audience.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
that's
it has brands, but it also has like, say, garden or like carpet cleaning.
Huh.
So if someone is watching content around those things, it also target them.
Okay. So we didn't know we could actually mention brands. I thought you would say people who are interested, let's say, in rugs. Now when you say Jaipur rugs, it's like defining one brand.
Yeah.
People who match Jaipur rugs.
Yeah.
I
Brands.
thought we could say only rugs.
No,
you
no,
cannot
you can
mention a brand.
But even in your
That's
post.
on Instagram, this you can do on ads.
But I didn't know that we could
No, but on
mention the brand
Instagram,
itself.
Instagram also posts boosts as long Jaipur Rug shows up on there as
Yeah.
well.
You can even mention celebrities.
So
Like anything.
the name.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
name.
I thought it's like more subjective.
no,
It's
no,
just celebrities.
related,
You
right.
can't say Salman Khan.
No,
you
no,
can say
no.
celebrities. But
No,
now
no,
you're saying you
no,
can
no.
You can do
the
the
names.
names. Yeah.
Who are
Because if your
specific.
target audience is someone who's interested in that celebrity or their lifestyle,
Okay. That's a good learning.
And that behavior that I was talking about earlier is like engaged shoppers. So again, for e-commerce, we typically see if you have engaged shoppers as a qualifier, it really helps your campaigns because that person has already been put into that bucket. Like, say some people are like very quick to sit and buy on when they see an ad. That person would be an engaged shopper on Instagram. I went over this as a little bit of a broader example, but we've stuffed every interest we could because we want to. So for this client, we run different ads for people under 40 and different ads for people who are above 40. So like the person on the creative is a little bit older in this versus a younger person in the other one. So this is just an example of that. But there should be a list, like, should we like have 10 or 15 people who match their interest, or it could be even like so many of them, like.
No, your audience, that's what I say, your audience size should be significant enough that you're actually going to see results. So typically if you're in Ads Manager, they'll show you on the side what your audience size is. So if you're a local Bombay brand, for example, and then it's showing you, say, for Harvest Salad, I'm just using that example, when you're running lower per head ads, even if it shows it to 3 lakh people, we're okay with it. But if it's a pan Bombay thing, we obviously want that estimated audience size to be larger. So it depends on, if you're a pan India brand, you can have that audience size be larger. If you're just a local brand, it can be a little bit smaller in that sense. So this is just the strategy that we recommend most brands should think of, where you drive people from awareness to engagement and then to action rather than just massively spending your money on conversions because people may not always be willing to convert immediately. I already went over this in terms of the creative planning thing, but just think about this when you're sort of segregating your
So
budget.
basically first is awareness, then
Yeah.
engagement,
Yeah,
then
and then
action.
action. Because
And conversion?
action is conversion.
Okay.
It can be conversion, leads, whatever the actual value that's coming to your brand is at the end. These are just some ad formats. So we have video, which is really good. Like I said, it's easily shareable, good conversion rates, great return on ad spend, good for information and education. This collection ads are very good for e-commerce, and carousels also work quite well in terms of showcasing multiple products. The reason we say carousels work well, especially for products like jewelry, fashion and all of this, is you're almost letting them see the entire catalog in one swipe.
And what does collection mean?
Collection ads is basically where it acts like a mini website. So you have a video that can play over here and then all your products will show over here at the bottom. So in terms of, these are just some best practices for your ads. This is very, very general. If you'll have specific questions, please ask me after. But aesthetic shots, I mentioned this, you need to invest in photography and videography, or just have a good backup, like a good amount of content with you. Deals, giveaways and discounts, depending on if your brand is discount-led or not. Definitely have something that sort of goes with it. If you can't be discount-led, just be topical. If you have something running for Mother's Day, Father's Day, any of these type of activities, just as long as it's relevant to your brand, just try and be as topical so that someone actually thinks about you in that moment. Product innovation, so this is really good for, say, e-commerce again as well, and food. If you have bundling, if you can bundle some of your best sellers together or add some type of gifting element. So say something is relevant, like if you want to target friends or people who got engaged, say with, a home gift or something like that, you can
definitely try and position it as a perfect gift to them. So even with this rug brand, we are starting as wedding season will come upon us, we will try to position it to people of friends of people who recently got engaged. That okay, this is a great gift to buy, or like buy for your friends who are just getting married, moving into a new house or something. User-generated content. If you have influencer content and customers content works really well, especially in that bottom of the funnel stage. But please ask any influencer before you use their content, otherwise they may charge you again. Ratings and reviews, any types of ratings and reviews you generated will work really well to drive credibility. And reel content, this is what we were discussing earlier, whatever you have, try and repurpose it even with little edits for your ads. Because if you're investing time and effort into creating those reels, it's best to just repurpose that.
How long should a video ad be?
15 to 20 seconds max. It's changed. If you asked me last year, we said 15, but this year we're seeing like 7 to 15 minutes max. How much time do we have? 5-10 minutes.
It's okay, we can still go on.
Okay, cool.
As long as you're not
I'm
tired.
fine.
You should drink some water.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had.
yeah.
That's okay. You need more? I'm fine.
Actually, can we get some water? Can I have some water? You know, this is very small time, 7 to 9 for this kind of work.
Yeah.
We need 3 hours.
Okay, I'll quickly go through Google Ads, LinkedIn Ads. I'm sorry, but there's only 2 slides on it, but if you all have more specific questions, I'm very happy to answer them. So with Google Ads, I think this is really important because you're leveraging the intent at the end of the day. So this is just like, imagine, say, we've taken Sahana and she's wrapped up work, she wants to order something delicious while she's been watching Taco Chronicles on Netflix and she wants some Mexican food. So she'll search Mexican food near me and best Mexican food in Mumbai to find the option. And then May's Mexican Kitchen will show up in that moment. So ideally you want to make sure that when someone is searching so specifically that you show them your ad in that moment, because this is not push advertising. On Meta and Instagram you're like trying to get them to actually buy your product. Here you're showing them your product when they're most likely to actually searching for it. So I think this is what you meant with the Google Ads screenshot, right? So it depends on what, again, this all goes, this is in-platform screenshot. So in terms of when you're actually setting up your campaign, what is your objective, depending on that, they'll then let you choose your different campaign types. So for sales, they'll show you like, okay, Google search, Google display, YouTube. So those are the 3 main platforms within Google that you can leverage. And these are the different objectives that they have. Ideally, don't choose this. So before we jump into the depths of Google, this is a free, again, a tool that is accessible as long as you have a Google account. You can see what people are sort of searching for in that moment. So I've just taken random examples like teakwood furniture, bridal jewelry, buy rugs online, buy ice cream online. They'll tell you like what is the average monthly searches for something like that, because what happens often is what we may think someone is searching, they may not actually be searching like that. So often clients will tell us, okay, use this keyword, but that keyword only has, say, 10 people looking for it monthly, so then it's not going to actually work out. So this tool is really, really great. It helps you firstly identify like what is the average monthly search volume, how many people are looking for it monthly, and also what are some other ideas that you can get from the
This is
tool.
also online.
Yeah.
And I can just search, say, ice cream or the keywords that are there for ice cream.
Yeah. They give you like suggested keywords and search volume. And they tell, it's actually really great. They'll tell you for the last 12 months what has the search volume been.
So what is this negative 33% bridal?
So that is, that's showing the 3-month change. But that's because wedding season is a little bit of a lull right now, right? Whereas if you see ice cream, because the summer months just got over, it's showing an 83% increase in 3 months change. And then year over year, it just shows you like year over year metrics in terms of like, okay, how has this changed year over year? So this most recent one is looking at June's data. So compared to June, how did it fare? So my concern for bridal jewelry would be like, why has it dropped 45% year on year? The month on month is fine, but what's the reason behind the
Gold price
drop year on year?
Gold price going up right now.
Yeah. So that's what I try to explain to brands is that performance marketing doesn't exist in a vacuum. Whatever else is going on, outside in the world ends up having an impact on this. Yeah. So this is just, again, I would encourage you guys to just do this for your brands. It's something fun that you can sort of just look at. This is again a larger example of ice cream, like just ice cream cakes near me, where we work with Baskin Robbins to show them this actual, you see this ad if someone is looking for an ice cream cake. And if you see over here, we mention ice cream cake here, it's mentioned over here as well. So in Google, you have to make sure that if you're bidding on some keywords, that keyword should also be in your ad copy. Because if you see over here, they've bolded ice cream, so that when I'm looking at it, my eyes are going to automatically sort of go towards it, and make sure that your keywords and ads are always sort of mapped to each other. Just to explain how the search mechanics work, this is what I've been going on about the whole time. Like your keyword has to relate to your ad, and then your ad has to make sense in terms of the landing page you're taking someone to. On Google, however, they are really, really strict about where you take your ads. So you can't take your ads to your Instagram page. You can take it to Swiggy, but it could end up in some sort of rejection. So with Google, we always recommend that you have a website to take them to. Some type of website landing page or action that they can take, because they are more strict than Meta in general.
So Meta will allow you to take it to an Amazon page.
Yeah. Google also we've been able to, but they'll go to 2-3 rejections and you keep fighting to get them to approve it. So having a website is ideal for Google. You can manage, but they're way more strict than Meta is.
So also nowadays when people post on Instagram, they make a bracket below the caption before the hashtags, and then they write certain words, and then they close the bracket. So even those words are picked up by Google.
That's they're two different platforms now. But your point is right. What we do is we look up search volume on Google, and then we put some of those keywords in there.
Okay, but what is the point of doing this bracket thing on
That's
Instagram?
for their optimization. Like it's basically replacing hashtags, or that's what they claim. Because now people are starting to use Instagram also as search, right? I'm only surprised if in 2 years they also start search ads at some degree, but they've not done it yet. But that basically to sort of optimize what someone is searching.
So do you suggest us to do that? Like on every post, should I
Yeah,
make a
but
bracket and then do the hashtags?
Make it relevant, I would say.
I mean, your caption could also just include
Yeah,
the words.
so
It's
that's what-
searchable, right?
Yeah, as long as you're making if you're saying how I don't know, how to host the best wedding or something like that. But then you have to make sure that it's in terms of think about how the person is actually going to be searching on there. You can put it in your caption like she's saying, I don't love this bracket thing, to be honest, but I guess it works.
So everything that you say in your video, that is also considered keywords for search optimization in Meta?
No, not so
Your
far.
voiceover is not considered.
Unless you put it as Instagram text, directly, for example, reels that you do captions.
Captions.
If you have
Captions.
Or if you want to, if you just put a hook at the top of your reel, then that works. But it has to be Instagram.
It has to be done inside Instagram, captions, and then it takes as a
text on it.
The text on the person.
Okay.
And Komal, to your point, you do all text. If you include alternate text in your in your thing, then you'll pick it
What's
up.
all text?
You know when you post, they have a thing saying all text. It's like you can put what is the text explanation of what's going on in your video.
That comes automatically on top. I need to click on it.
Yeah, you just need to click on it.
Yeah.
You can just put the script there. Yeah, so it's basically putting it in a text form. So basically, just to quickly explain how search mechanics work, you select your keywords, the user searches those keywords, the search engine ranks the ad. So that's what I was talking about. This Google is purely an auction center. So depending on how much I'm willing to pay, whether my keyword is relevant to my ad, and if my ad is relevant to my landing page, then the winning ad will appear, and then the advertiser only pays when the ad is actually clicked upon. So look at McDonald's has used something as broad as food delivery, and they've won the auction. So this is
It
again
becomes automatic.
meaning you basically
First page, depending on your keywords and ads.
Yes. You on the
accordingly come
Google
up.
ad platform, you put in your keywords, you put in your ad copy, you put in your maximum bid, and then it'll show automatically based off of who's searching, where are they sitting when they're searching, all of that.
So on the back end, in that 1 second that you're searching Google, the whole auction system is running to figure out which is the best ad to show in that link. So if you have a daily budget of say 100 rupees and your cost per click is say 3 rupees, by the time you get 33 clicks, your budget has run out. So then after that, your ad won't show. It's only going to show as long as you have budget in there and as long as Google thinks your ad is relevant and your bid is good enough. So what happens sometimes is if my bid is too low, my ad won't even get any impressions because Google's like, this person is not really giving me 5 rupees, so I'm not going to show their ad. And the converse though is that you can't pay your way through Google Ads. Like, if you pay 100 rupees and your ad is
If you're paying so much, then when are you going to earn?
hire us, you know.
Very good question.
No, really, I mean, you know.
But it works. That's how, as in, Google Ads works for most people. It's just about how you structure it and how you set it up.
Depends on the scale of your business
Yeah.
also. You can, question. So depending on the
Yeah, who you're looking like say that like even with this brand,
really
The rest is LinkedIn when you're doing B2B business.
So,
you connect it.
with the rug brand, what we've done is like if I do buy rugs online, it's too competitive because Jaipur rugs, Betty, all of them are going to be taking over that. So the approach we've taken with them is a little bit different, where we've picked out that because even that client was not super confident about Google, we were trying to convince them. So he gave us a small budget, and with that small budget, instead of focusing on broad keywords, we've gone very specific. So printed rugs, boho rug, Aztec print rug, washable rugs, because we know that's completely in their wheelhouse.
Which companies?
The rug company that we're working with.
Which one?
Yeah.
What's the name of the
Easy Rugs.
Easy.
So basically with them, there was not much faith in Google, so we, rather than spend, her question was like, the more competitive a space is, the more the keywords will cost, which is completely right. That's what you were asking, right? Which is, that happens, so that's why to counter that, there are ways to just be creative about it. You focus on more specific keywords where these big guys are not going to be bidding on like printed rugs. Most of their budget is going to go to the general stuff, which is like buy rugs online, which for me as a brand is too competitive when I'm trying to convince my client to stay on Google. So then I've taken a more specific approach now. Now there's faith in the product, so now I can slowly sort of build up on those like more expensive keywords.
And even for these, like what would your budget be? Like for example, printed rugs or whatever. Like how would you split your?
Again in that Google keyword tool, I didn't show you that part of the screenshot, but they tell you an estimated bid, like low to high. So we typically take a middle range, like a mid range of like what the tool is showing us, and we put that in. Or then if the client is very specific, we'll say, okay, we're willing to pay like. So in B2B, this happens a lot where like for brand, like for certain like managed detection software, which is like a software you use for B2B SaaS companies, that's a very, like in the US, that costs up to $70 a click. So what we've done over there is we put a maximum bid of like say 80 rupees for example, $80 for example. But then at that point, we know that we're only going to probably get like say 5 clicks in a day, but we're okay with that because we know like what this like the differential is in terms of how much we're willing to pay. And then you have to like think about your campaign. So that campaign is like a expensive campaign for us, but then we balance it with more broader, less expensive keywords. I'm sure you guys have seen these shopping ads for e-commerce, fashion, jewelry. It works really well also because someone can see the price. So if they can't spend on it, they won't even click on your ad. So it's great. This is a different setup, which is like on the back end, there's this thing called Google Merchant Center. That's a little bit more complicated than just simple search ads. That needs to ensure your website is properly set up. You have to have a very good developer who's helping you with it to ensure it works properly.
Go to the select your audience because I feel like example, this is you
Oh, time. Okay, yeah. Okay, this I just want to show you all because Google is great. In market audiences are basically like time-bound audiences in terms of like they put someone into like a short-term audience. So say I am looking to buy a house, for example, over here. They'll track all my like what I'm doing on Google, and they put me into this in-market audience, which means that Sunaina has been put in an audience in the short term that she's looking for a house. So there's a lot of like
stuff that goes into it that allows you to be like very specific. I may not, and the example we give here is like you may not want to, I may not have an affinity towards cars in general, but if I'm buying a car in that short-term moment, Google will put me into that in-market audience. And if you feel they have a lot of options, I won't put all of them here, but if your business doesn't fit into this, you can do custom intent where you can actually sort of input in certain brands and stuff that you believe your target audience is going to be searching around to reach them. Then we have affinity audiences. These are more long-term. So that same example I gave you about like cars, right? Say one of you is just super passionate about cars and has been over time. That puts you into an affinity audience because it means you have a longer-term, longer-standing interest in that space. So performance and luxury, vehicle enthusiasts. Again, this is just super fun to sort of explore and see what matches. We have my favorite one was in-market, which tells you like this person wants to take a trip to, like even within Italy, they tell you Rome. So and depending on their search behavior, you can actually target based off of that. And similar to that, frequent international travelers, it works as a great audience targeting approach on Google. This is an example. Yeah, this is an example of YouTube ads, which also you can leverage all the targeting I showed you earlier in market affinity, but you can also target based off of placement. So what channel are they on, for example, in terms of like what channel am I engaging with? If I'm it works very well for finance again. If I'm watching like a finance person like giving stock tips or like talking about derivatives or whatever, I can like place my ad on that specific channel. Same thing with food. I can do it on a specific food influencer who's like creating a lot of recipe content where I believe my audience will be. So placement targeting is that you can actually place it on a specific video as well, depending on like this. Even for like this stick fix, for example, it would make a lot of sense. If someone's watching like a tutorial or something like that, you can place an ad on there. Behavioral targeting, again, this is like just based on any past behavior with your existing video content that you can leverage. This is just an example of a YouTube ad. On YouTube, again, there's a lot more to go through, but ideally your ad should add maximally 15 seconds because 6 seconds is ideal, but 15 seconds is also fine. So these are the types of audiences. Over here you can again do location, age, gender, language, but these are the audiences. If you can see coffee shop regulars, cooking enthusiasts, fast food cravers, vegetarians, prefers organic food, frequently dines out. Within in-market, we have people who are in-market.
So basically in YouTube you're talking.
This is in Google. This is all within Google
and written display network and YouTube.
Yeah. So within Google, so this is all networks. This is for display and YouTube. Google houses Google Display Network, Google Search, and YouTube. Those are the three that you can run ads on within Google. So this is all for that. You can't really see this here, but when you all get the presentation, this is basically we've infused this with all Mexican keywords because they didn't have a pre-created in-market audience for Mexican food. So we just put in our own keywords into this. And again, similar to what we discussed before, they have remarketing. So anyone who's been to your website, anyone who's converted on your website. So if you're a food brand, they may cut the return rate may be higher. So remarketing is really great for that as long as it's in control. LinkedIn it's good for, again, you leverage the power of networking and like the job titles and stuff. We always see much better lead quality coming from LinkedIn when it comes to any like lead activations. This is not super relevant for direct to consumer, but for anything again in the finance sector, B2B, LinkedIn is incredible. They have a lot of new ad types, which is like say document ads also, where instantly you can run an ad which allows them to say download a white paper or download a case study and stuff like that. So really it's made for B2B marketing.
So suppose exports isn't part of B2B. So suppose you are looking for exporting your product outside the country. Is a LinkedIn a good platform for that?
Yeah, but LinkedIn abroad is even more expensive than it is here. So you can experiment.
No, so there are exporters, right? So there are export houses that export
okay,
from
fine.
India.
If you want to target in India, then yeah, it's perfect.
So there are export houses, right? So suppose I want to export something,
Yeah.
but I can export it through export houses.
Yeah.
So then it becomes relevant to
Then
do-
it works like for franchise, export, a lot
Yeah.
of those things.
for white labeling.
It works, LinkedIn works well for that, but the best performance you'll see is for B2B.
Yeah, white labeling and all is B2B only, no? So
Yeah.
that's enough.
This is just to show you like the type of targeting you have. So investment chief operating officer, you can target, and people keep their LinkedIn job titles refreshed. So it's really great. You can target based off of company, where they work, how many years they worked for also, and even job seniority. So sometimes if you want to control for lead quality, we tend to add more narrowers and okay, they should have had 6 years of experience. So to your question, like that decision maker, we want them to be the most like refined customer. So we would keep that audience would have many narrowers in it. Whereas that first person who's actually seeing your ad the first time wouldn't have so many layers. And the years of experience can be less for them. Okay, this is just very simple, like how can you ensure your ads actually stick in people's minds? Eye-catching visuals, unexpectedness. So this is something that you can actually do, which is a little bit funny, and especially if you have a younger audience, definitely try and do that because it will keep the viewers engaged. This works really well if you're trying to boost brand awareness and brand recall. Emotional appeal, again, you know, there like 31% of ads with emotional pull succeeded versus 16% success of ads that focused on rational content. So if your product, like for you, it's perfect, like weddings, emotions, all of that ties to trying to target the bride, groom, whatever. Any emotional storytelling in that angle tends to work really well because it pulls at those strings. Humor, of course, if your brand has the ability to be humorous, definitely try it out.
Can I ask you something? This performance marketing is very, very important compared to earlier days when ads were more important to, you know, invest more on advertising. Is there a difference?
You mean traditional advertising?
Earlier, I mean, I'm talking about 3 years ago or 2 years ago. Performance marketing was not really that.
So after COVID, I had a lot of data on that, but there's no time to go over it. After COVID, this has changed a lot. Like I would say it should be at least like your second to third priority in your list of spend. But again, I was talking to Komal about this earlier, your branding, your social media and website needs to be set. Don't go in if you don't have any of that ready. First focus on building your brand out properly, your social media and your website, and then you can invest it.
Is it okay if we go to the activity? We'll obviously be sharing this. I think it's just the last segment, but since it's very heavily data driven,
Well, I can do this and they can do the activity on their own also.
So you can ask them the question right now.
Yeah.
And then maybe it will be.
Yeah, just two things. One is this, so this theory of reciprocity, I'll see the video later, but basically I know I'm telling, but all of us should invest in performance marketing, but you can't keep asking your customer to buy without giving them anything. So just keep that in mind. So if you're asking them to say, if you're saying that, okay, I know someone said they have tried like a hummus product, just do that. So if you're trying to sell that, say that, okay, give me your information and I'll give you like 2 recipes around it, or I'll give you a 10% discount on your first purchase. So don't just go on like saying sale. You have to, if you're asking them to buy, you have to also give them some amount of value. Okay, last section on monitoring and optimization, which I actually think is very important. These are the questions you can ask the agencies you work with. Like, what is my click-through rate? What is my cost per click? What is my cost per purchase? What are my video view rates? How many saves and shares have I got? So say for you, you may not have I'm not sure if you have a website, but for you, shares and saves is so important because if I'm mood boarding or doing any of that, that's what I'm going to do. So depending on your business, and just like remember, like cost per purchase can be used interchangeably with cost per lead also. Be patient. Ad systems take time to learn, but I'm saying questions.
That should be bold.
What, be patient?
Yeah.
Check every day, but don't make changes regularly. And the ways you can optimize is audience, ad, bidding strategy. So sometimes maybe the CPC model isn't working for you. So switch to CPM, switch to add to carts. This is just in terms of like, you have to keep a pulse check on key metrics, engagement, followers, daily orders, daily revenue. This is a really cool technology integration called Velocity. which every morning on your WhatsApp will tell you like how much have you generated in sales, for example.
So when you sign up for Google Ads, this comes on your
No,
WhatsApp every day?
this is different. This is Velocity. It's a third-party tech integration that we've done for our brands, which sends. Because then everyone is on top of it, right? Like I know my team who's working on it. Okay. So if something is like awfully wrong, you can access
So
it.
then you share this with your customers also?
Yeah.
With your clients.
With our clients, yeah.
Yeah,
Which is our customers.
your customers.
What they give out, all the platforms will give you this type of data, like city-wise, hour. This is just a cheat sheet in terms of what each of these numbers mean, in case like at any point you're wondering. I'm not going to go through all of them.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah.
So this is most important.
I know.
Actually, this is the most important.
I'll go through it then. Okay, impressions is number of like we'll be sending the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 9:30.
Okay, then
If you all want, we can do, if anyone wants, we can do like a part 2 of this at a time.
Yeah, I think that should be that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
And nobody wants to leave.
Okay, so you all can go through this a bit here, but I would just say that if you all are spending on marketing, performance marketing, please make sure your retention is also proper. Like, otherwise it doesn't. If I'm spending, say, it means that if I'm getting one customer, say at like 1,000 rupees per purchase, I can bring that cost per purchase down by ensuring that okay, 1 month later I send them a very subtle message via WhatsApp saying okay.
Because you have the data.
Yeah, you have that data, so don't ever lose out on it because you can actually, retention is 5x cheaper than acquisition. I've gone through all the acquisition bits. Retention is a whole other
Also,
thing.
is the MailChimp and email marketing obsolete and it's
No.
century old?
Email marketing is not working in India anymore, but WhatsApp marketing is working incredible. As long as you're not too invasive.
As long as you have the data for that.
Yeah.
No, you don't need any data in WhatsApp marketing. That's the beauty of it, that even if they're in a contact list, they just go.
You need their phone number.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean if it is not in my contact list, I can still send. If I've signed up for that WhatsApp marketing with that blue tick, it goes auto messages, no? To so many people who are not on my contact list.
That if you use those WhatsApp API integrations.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So without having those people in my contact list, I can still reach out to them.
There are these things called like Interact, Wati, all these platforms that basically help you disseminate that information, and what they do is like they also have a database that then it sends to
Yeah.
doesn't have to be like my customer. This is just a checklist.
Sorry, on WhatsApp, if like you're sending, if you're doing the full WhatsApp marketing thing, and people block you or whatever, does that have an impact on
Yeah.
the...
It will have an impact.
It will have an impact.
Yeah. You should be very careful about it because you don't want to damage your business
Yeah.
verification and all of that. That's why when I'm saying do retention, I'm saying do it carefully. Don't spam someone every day. Like for Harvest and Maze, we only send 2 messages per month. Unless obviously there's some activation or a match is going on or something, but otherwise we only do like at max 2 messages a month. Depends on the industry.
Really is a number.
Thank you. Can we just take a group picture and y'all can ask whatever personal questions or yeah, and we'll be sending this worksheet so you can just apply the learnings that you all had here.
And give your number so in case you want to reach out. And if you're not a very expensive agency to work with, maybe we can discuss some business. Yeah.
Or I can refer you to, I mean, so I'm happy to chat. We can figure it out.
No, seriously, I'm seriously.
Yeah.
I know you know the subject really well.
Sunaina.
So, firstly, we would like to thank you for this amazing session. And it's interactive and so much detail into this presentation. So, we can see how much effort you put in. And we should definitely do a part 2 for this. So, that's a thank you to you. But yeah, I mean, y'all can hit her up. She's a member. Y'all can ask all the questions. We'll share the presentation, the worksheet, the number, and we'll definitely do a part 2, I think.
I think you need to do it for 3 hours.
But also, like, we started half an hour late, so technically we are on time. So yeah. But also maybe next time we can do more brand to brand where she can sit with you and talk about your personal brands and how you're doing.
But you know what? Actually, we all go to social media people, but we have no idea what we are paying.
Exactly.
That's
We can do it there, the group picture.